Hello and welcome to the news at 7 on NT International. I am Kendi Olale. Now the headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari condemns recent violence in Kaduna State, makes special appeal to traditional and religious leaders to be mindful of their public statements. Nigerian Army begins stringent exercise in the northwest to flush out criminal elements as their task force degrades terrorist hideout in Borno State. Algerian parliament elects interim president for the country following the resignation of 82-year-old President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Now the news in details. President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians in the diaspora that his second term will consolidate on the key achievement of the last 4 years aimed at making Nigeria more successful and prosperous and corrupt-free. The president was speaking when he hosted Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates. Foreign desk correspondent will bring us details of this report in a subsequent bulletin. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the recent violence in Kaduna State, which led to the death of 20 members of Adara community. A statement by the Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, the President also condemned the resurgence of cultist killing in Rivers State and ordered for increased community and law enforcement action against its escalation. President Buhari appeals for peace and decries the ongoing culture of an eye for an eye that has fueled a number of attacks and reprisal attacks with the two communities at different times, suffering casualties at Kajuru and Kachia local government area of Kaduna State. He appeals to indigents of Kaduna and other Nigerians to refrain from comment in the traditional and social media, especially by people who have little or no knowledge of the history of the long-standing conflict, which fueled further conflict in the area and between the two groups. President Buhari made a special appeal to traditional and religious leaders to be cautious with their comments on the conflict, insisting that whatever words they share publicly should not be inflammatory, but inspired by interest in peace. He condoles with the family of those who lost loved ones in their attack. The Ministry of Defense has expressed its concern over the security challenges in the northwest, particularly in the state of Zamfara, Sokoto, Kaduna, and Birnin-Gwari axis of Kaduna State. A statement signed by the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Defense, Suko Gusau, says due to the recent prevailing security situation in the state, the ministry, through the Nigerian Army, is now conducting exercise Abirin Konama, the first stimulus in the Zamfara State, Katsina, and Sokoto State. The exercise is to flush out the activities of criminal elements in the northwest. The Nigerian Air Force has also intensified airstrike against the bandit in Zamfara. Recently, the government acted on the advice of the Ministry of Defense to suspend all mining activities in Zamfara State and environs following intelligence reports that suggest close collaboration between the activities of the bandit and illegal miners. The Ministry of Defense therefore warns any person or group of persons who choose to connive with the bandits to perpetrate crime against law-abiding citizens to henceforth retract their steps or face the full wrath of the law. Still in security, the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole has degraded an Islamic State of West African province terrorist hideout and neutralized some of their fighters at Tubun Zarami in the northern part of Borno State. This was accomplished through a strike conducted as part of the ongoing air campaign of Operation Yachin Tawfiq, which is aimed at flushing out terrorists from the fringes of Lake Chad. A Nigerian Air Force intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance platform on a routine reconnaissance mission observed significant presence of terrorist fighters in the settlement, with several structures and equipment spotted beneath the thick vegetation of the area. Accordingly, the Air Task Force scrambled 2 NAF Alpha jets to attack the location, recording successful strike on the terrorist structures and neutralizing several of their fighters. Have you ever heard of a pipe band? Najat Tijani brings us details of the first course graduation of the Nigerian Air Force Pipe Band.
No, it isn't the Queen of England being escorted by a Scottish regiment of bagpipe players. Look again. These are Course 1 graduates of the Nigerian Air Force Pipe Band. Yes, they have something to do with royalty as they differ from the regular bands, though the Chief of the Air Staff is amongst the privileged few who enjoy the services of the Nigerian Air Force Pipe Band. Now, as part of the Nigerian Air Force mandate of capacity building and retraining in line with international best practices, 22 airmen and 3 airwomen underwent an intensive 3-month course in order to be certified here today. Lance Corporal Ekundayo is one of the graduates and is grateful for the opportunity to serve her fatherland in a unique way.
To be realistic, I barely hear of the bagpipe in Nigeria, so it's a privilege for me to be one in the Nigerian Air Force.
The initiative is also part of the key drivers of the Nigerian Air Force, which includes adding value to various communities where Nigerian Air Force units are situated.
The training of the pipe band in partnership with an indigenous company, the Scottish Power Nigeria Limited, was based on our drive and determination to utilize available local resources and expertise, which also translates to cost saving as well as local content development.
Already they have resumed duties as the wing in charge of the training awaits being upgraded to a full-fledged directorate in future. Najat Tijani, NTA News.
Moving on to legislative matters, senators confirmed the nomination of chairman and members of the governing board of the Northeast Development Commission. The confirmation followed approval of the recommendations of the Senate Committee on Special Duties, which screened the nominees. Ignatius Unko reports.
The Senate President.
Very few senators present in the chamber at the commencement of Tuesday's plenary. This basically was one of the spillover effects of the ongoing orientation and 2019 budget scrutiny by the National Assembly. But then, legislative business must go on, and the first item for consideration was the report of the Senate Committee on Special Duties on the screening and confirmation of members of the Northeast Development Commission Board.
The committee further observed that all members had the prerequisite background knowledge and experience in their various fields.
Most of the funds should go to the things that will make meaning to the lives of the people, development projects, things that will be life-changing.
Senator Binta Masi Garba, however, made an observation.
The commission is domiciled or is going to be domiciled in Borno State, and the chief executive, CEO, is from Borno State again.
We had our conference with the House. Since it was a matter of vote, there were more of them that were inclined to the MD coming from Borno.
The appointment of Mohammed Goni Alkali as MD CEO is equally the action of the executive, sir. We should not dither, we should not waver in ensuring that the right things are done for this commission to take off,
so that they can quickly go and start serving this nation under this commission.
As member of the governing board of the Northeast Development Commission, those in favor say aye, those against say nay. Ayes have it.
The legislators approved the 2019-2021 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, which recommends oil production of 2.3 million barrels per day, oil price of $60 per barrel, and an exchange rate of 305 naira to a dollar for the 2019 fiscal year.
Also, the federal government should harness the full optimal potential of the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development in terms of revenue generation to minimize the level of new borrowing.
Senate has also passed the National Institute for Security Studies Establishment Bill, Nigerian Police Trust Fund Establishment Bill, and the Harmonized Retirement Age for Teachers in Nigeria Bill. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Legislative procedures towards the domestication of 2 key international maritime law to further improve the sector has commenced at the House of Representatives. On resumption on plenary Tuesday, the House passed at second reading a bill for an act to provide for the suppression of piracy and other maritime offences.
The Maritime Bill seeks to give effect to the provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the Convention for the Suppression of Unlawful Acts against the Safety of Maritime Navigation, both of which Nigeria is a signatory to.
The maritime environment generates more than 75% of Nigeria's revenue through handling of over 90% import and export business by Nigerians.
It will increase the security on the waterways, and it will also give employment further to our people.
What this bill essentially seeks to do is to domesticate what is obtained as international best practice in the maritime domain.
The bill was referred to the Committee of the Whole for further legislative action. 2 matters of urgent public importance adopted at Tuesday's plenary were the need to investigate Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company for alleged violations of Public Procurement Act and the need for National Emergency Management Agency to assist victims of Boko Haram attacks in Chibok, Borno State, sponsored by Representative Musa Soba and Asabe Vilita Bashir, respectively.
The concerted efforts of the Nigerian Army in degrading the activities of the Boko Haram, the few of them that remain, Mr. Speaker, they launch attacks on some of these villages that are right inside the bush.
The House, following a motion from Representative Ahmed Patagi, urged the Federal Ministry of Works to re-award the contract for the construction of Bida-Sachi-Nupeko Road due to its economic importance. In the meantime, the lawmakers have approved the establishments of Federal Polytechnic Fagge in Kano and the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, as recommended by the House Committee on Tertiary Education and Services, chaired by Aminu Suleiman. The Speaker, Yakubu Dogara, had at commencement of plenary brought to the notice of members presidential decision to decline assent to 11 bills due to observed shortcomings and constraints. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Nigerian Army University bill has a budget proposal of 12.589 billion naira for the 2019 fiscal year. Defending the budget estimates before the House Committee on Army, the acting Vice-Chancellor of the university says the university is getting an annual appropriation for the first time in 2019, having been established last year. National Assembly correspondent Kenneth Nanim reports.
The Nigerian Army University was established as a specialized institution with courses tailored towards tackling issues relating to terrorism, internal security threats, intelligence gathering, as well as to promote military-civil relations. However, the institution is being challenged by infrastructural deficit and needs its capital budget of 10.511 billion naira approved for optimal operation.
Our Senate building is going to cost 3.5 billion. Our main library is going to cost 1.5 billion. Our 2 faculty buildings at 1.2 billion. If this House so wish, they should help us add more to us so that those aspects that we need to kickstart this university to a well-grounded position will be a success.
I said, is this just another conventional university? You said no, it's a specialist university. Then I'm hearing other faculties and all that. Do you actually need them in a specialist institution?
We have Center for Counterterrorism Studies, which is not existing in any other university. We have some courses which we call cyber warfare and cyber security, which we use internet to fight. And we teach our both students, both the civilian and the military, with drones.
The Army University also projected internally generated revenue of 180 million naira from school fees of an approximately 4,000 students. From the National Assembly, Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
Still in budget, Defense Nigeria's Cultural Center has been described as a national investment that serves as an avenue to promote Nigeria's tourism sector. This is the position of the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, as he defended the 2019 budget estimates for the culture sector of the ministry before the Senate Committee for Culture and Tourism. The committee applauded the federal government for 100% release on personnel, but called for more attention to capital projects for positive impact on the economy. We'll go on a short break now. More news after this time out. Don't go away.
International news. Africa as it is.
Thank you for staying with us, and we start this segment with the business news, and Rachel Schreiber is our guide.
Many thanks for joining me. The federal government has announced plans to automate collection of value-added tax from operators in the nation's lottery and gaming industry. Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, disclosed this at a stakeholders meeting organized in conjunction with the National Lottery Regulatory Commission in Lagos. The automation, he said, would enable players and bettors pay VAT on each transaction made. Mr. Fowler emphasized that this policy direction aims at improving transparency, accountability, and convenience in the payment of any taxes. Meanwhile, the international oil benchmark, Brent crude, extended its gains Monday, rising to a 5-month high. Brent, against which Nigeria's crude oil is priced, hit a high of $70.86 a barrel, with instability in Libya raising the prospect of further constraints at the same time that the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries has made cuts to production. A worsening security situation in Libya has also sparked concerns that supply from the major oil producer could be disrupted. Time now for a quick check on how the equities markets fared this Tuesday. That's it on Business News. I am Rachel Shaibu.
Thank you, Rachel. The Minister of Niger Delta has assured host communities of Nigeria's producing oil and gas outcome of federal government unrelenting efforts towards executing developmental projects and programs that will benefit the entire region. The minister stated this while receiving the group on a courtesy visit in his office.
I am very concerned about what goes on. Well, let me say, those of us who are from there at this particular season of the administration, who are managing the affairs of the region, we are concerned and passionate about it. And this is the reason we have taken several initiatives to guarantee whatever opinion we have on how we want to accomplish our targets and the strategies for doing that.
Fund has been paid monthly, collected by FRS, pay to the Federation accounts. We are playing this ministry to ensure that this money will speedily be released to remediate the suffering of our people. For all these years, gas have been fled.
Joseph Johnson reports that HOSCOM is a pressure group representing all oil and gas producing communities in the Niger Delta region, as well as the mouthpiece that advocates the development and remediation of the degraded environment of the communities where oil and gas and exploration have been ongoing for decades. A central representative advisory committee to serve as a bridge between stakeholders and communities, groups and the Hydrocarbon Pollution and Remediation Project, IPEP, has been inaugurated to ensure smooth cleanup exercise of the Ogoni. Minister of Environment said the setting up of the community is in line with the United Nations Environmental Programme recommendation for the cleanup of the Ogoni land. He, however, advised the members of the committee to be proactive in their approach to forestall any crisis as a result of the exercise.
As grassroots people, it is my firm belief that your interface between the community and hybrid to handle issues and conflicts that may arise in relation to the cleanup project will in no small measure help build a peaceful and secure environment for the successful implementation of the cleanup of Ogoni land. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that we have lost time and we have a lot to accomplish in terms of the scope of work. We are comfortable, we are happy with what has been going on. I want to assure you that in the land, henceforth, there will be peace.
The need to improve relations between Nigeria and Bangladesh, particularly in the area of trade and commerce, has been emphasized. High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Nigeria stated this at a media luncheon in Abuja. Abdusalam Jibril was there in our report.
Nigeria and Bangladesh, both former British colonies, have enjoyed cordial diplomatic relations over the years. Highlighting the similarities between both nations, High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Nigeria solicited closer ties between the two countries.
There are many areas where we can engage our relationship, and I think trade and commerce is the area where we can forge a strong, mutually beneficial relationship. Out of my experience within almost 1 year term in here, 1 year period, I could see lots of interest about Nigerian business community, about Bangladesh.
For other guests at the event, Nigeria can learn and adopt some of the developmental policies of Bangladesh.
My advice to the government is that they should work with this mission, diplomatic mission here in Nigeria. They have a lot to give to us, and we have a lot to take from them.
We've achieved in health, life expectancy. In education, they have achieved. All this is still what His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari is talking about.
Bangladesh trails Nigeria as the 8th most populous nation in the world. In Abuja, Abdusalam Jibril, NTA News.
For stories trending around the globe, let's join Obiageli Ugoke.
Hello and thanks for joining us. Algeria's parliament has appointed the Speaker of its upper house, Abdelkader Ben Salah, to succeed former President Abdulaziz Bouteflika as the country's interim leader. In a related development, demonstrators in Sudan have spent another night camped outside the military headquarters in the capital, Khartoum. They are calling for President Omar al-Bashir to step down. At least 2 soldiers were reported dead since the demonstrations outside the army headquarters began on Saturday. In the meantime, Israelis are voting in the country's most closely fought general elections in years. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is seeking a 5th term in office, but he is facing corruption allegations and a strong challenge from former military chief Benny Gantz. Mr. Benny Gantz, head of the centrist Blue and White Alliance, is challenging Mr. Netanyahu on the key issue of security and is promising cleaner politics. And that's the news across the globe. Many thanks for your time. I'm Obiageli Ugoke.
Thank you, Obiageli. And now we move on to sport. Kene Emagwadeke is our guide.
Hostilities continue